What's happening, everybody? John Denton here, and it's tier list time. Right, simple. Just as it says, I'm ranking J. Cole's discography. That took me 8 takes to say the word discography, but you don't need to know that. J. Cole's discography. So what are the tiers? God tier. Self-explanatory. We all know what that means. And we've got amazing. So I think a Fantano 9 or an 8 or a 6. And solid. Is that something you might recommend? You might not. Depends who you're going to recommend it to. Mid. I'm bracing for incoming hate. Elbows tight. And then trash. I accept my fate. You guys are just going to hate me. So let's just do it. Studio albums, though, for this discography. There we go. I can say it. Let's kick things off at the beginning. J. Cole, The Sideline Story. Have it floating around. I really like this record. I never did a reaction to this record because I'll level with you. When we started to do J. Cole reactions and different reactions on Rock Reacts, all sorts of different artists, this was before I was doing full album reactions on my own channel. And after listening to a few songs, I just really wanted to kind of dive into his albums a little bit. So I started with Sideline Story, and then this was actually shortly before the channel ended. So I have actually listened to the album. I can't do an album reaction on the channel because I've already heard it. I actually went back and listened to this recently though, and I do think it really holds up well considering it's like 10 years old now, and you hear that kind of hungry Cole, which I really like, but it's coupled with kind of grandiose production. It's not quite on the level of production of some of his later stuff, but you got like Dollar and a Dream 3, which is really like grandiose, I think is the best way of describing that. Once again, great bars, great hunger. There's hunger all the way through this. There's confidence as well, but a lot of hunger, which I really appreciate. When you got that hunger mixed with the fact that he's been taken in by Jay-Z, taken in, signed. He is at this level now. Can't get enough of Trey Songz. Really good song. Sideline Story itself, excellent beat on that one. Lost Ones, very powerful track. Obviously you've got In the Morning with Cole and Drake, which is on another project as well, which can't really go wrong with that one. You've got the Warm Up at the end, which is one of his most streamed songs, in fact, of all time, which ain't great, and obviously led to the whole Nas situation, which we know about now. But overall, I'm going to put it in solid. It's not quite at that 9 out of 10 level, but a really solid project with a load of excellent songs. One that I'm happy to go back to, one I'm happy to pull songs out of. And it's, like I said, really interesting to hear that kind of hungry J. Cole. Moving on then, this is actually an album that I heard for the first time not long ago when I did my album reaction to Born Sinner, the gap that I had in his discography for ages. And do you know what? I just don't really like this album, guys. I don't really. You watch the reaction, and the first half of that video is me just not really connecting with a lot of these songs. Whether he's talking about being Martin Luther King in the club, or just some of the really confusing elements that he has where he's talking positively about women and talking in kind of like a real vile way about women. He just seems kind of lost to me in between the J. Cole that we know now and perhaps the J. Cole that was actually not before, which is a weird one because he's actually kind of more of a purer. I think his intentions sounded a little purer on the previous album. Here it felt like somebody who's had success, has stepped out. You know, it's the classic second album syndrome, you could say, in many ways, because he's had that success. He's not writing about that come up anymore. He's not writing about that hunger. So where are the sources of inspiration? Some of the new things in his life. And if we went on the first half of the album, I'd probably, you know, really not rate this record at all, if I'm being completely honest with you. Song Power Trip with Miguel has grown on me. I didn't massively like that first listen, but that's just the nature of reactions. But still not something that I'd label as one of my favourite J. Cole songs. It does pick up though. It does pick up, to be fair. You can't go wrong with Crooked Smile. Great track. You definitely can't go wrong with Let Nas Down. The title track is good, and Miss America from the bonus tracks is really good. But would I choose to put this album on under really any circumstance? Am I going to choose to listen to Born Sinner front to back, given the rest of his discography, given all the music that's out there? Do you know what, guys? I don't think I am, and for that reason, I'm going to put it in mid.
Are you crazy? You're fucking paranoid, you are fucking.
I know some people are going to be mad at that, but that's just the way I feel about it, man. The Cole that I love isn't really present on this album that much. That's just the way it goes. Right, so from there, from Born Sinner, we go to the ultimately famous, loved Forest Hills Drive. 2014 Forest Hills Drive. First things first, rest in peace, Uncle Phil. Always have to say that when you reference Forest Hills Drive. Sounds special, man. This album's so special. I made sure that I went back through Cole's discography recently, just before the off-season came out, and I spent an hour just walking in actually fairly nice weather for the UK, which is unusual. This is a little while ago now, a few weeks ago. I went on an hour walk just with this project, and man, the songs were speaking to me in ways that they didn't even before. Ways that in ways that even when I did the first reaction, or I've gone on and listened to it multiple times, and this is one of the albums that post-reaction I have listened to plenty of times. It's difficult doing this. I listen to so many albums. I don't have time to go back to a lot of them. But that's something I'm trying to address. Anyway, I do have a strange connection with it. It does contain the first J. Cole song I ever heard in No Role Models, which I actually went off for a little while when I started discovering a slightly more lyrical J. Cole, but have since gone back and I really enjoy that track now. The beat's amazing, energy is amazing on that song, but if we're really getting into it, I love the way the beat works on A Tale of Two Cities. I love the way the beat works on Get Off My Dick as well. But then you've got songs like Love Yours. If ever you needed a pick-me-up, if ever you needed to sort of realign yourself with yourself and realign yourself with your self-confidence, which I will say I did on that day when I was taking that walk, because we all have these moments. A song like that, so special, so rare, a song like that. And I was going to say in hip-hop, but actually any genre, so rare to have a song so uplifting about the self without too many cliches. I think 2014 Forest Hills Drive is a rare record for an artist. It's the type of record that not only defines their career, it goes on to define elements in the musical genre in which they work. And yes, everything he does will pretty much be brought back and compared to this album. But you know, that's the kind of cross you have to bear when you create greatness. And I do think this is a truly great album. Like I said, rare. Most artists don't even get to do an album like this. Most artists don't get to connect with their music in this way. And for that reason, guys, for that reason, I can't put this album anywhere below God tier for me. I think this is one of the best hip-hop albums I've heard. I think it just gets better and better with time. I think it's informed so many other records as well over the following years. I love this album. I truly love this album. God tier. Moving on then, and For Your Eyes Only, which is... it's a beautiful listen, but it's a tough listen. If you're really deep in the lyrics, it's definitely a tough listen. Obviously, it's kind of a concept record. The kind of narrative of the piece about his friend James, and then that final gut punch at the end with the title track. It is not something that you're necessarily going to throw on to listen to very often. That's not really a criticism, because when the album was designed, I'm sure that was like kept in mind. This isn't really something that you're going to throw on in the car or throw on when you're walking. And while Cole has other deep, meaningful, heavy songs, this just seems to be one after another. Apart from Fold and Close, which really didn't fit on the album at all. I don't really like that song. It's all right, but yeah, it doesn't really do anything. And I know a lot of his fans don't connect with that song at all. But For Your Eyes Only, I think, is an excellent project. I think it's a kind of a special project. But am I going to choose to list it? I don't know. Where do I put this one, guys? This is a really difficult choice. This is one of the hardest choices on there. Maybe I should have just made more tiers. It would probably be in between these two, but the reason I kept it to 5 tiers is to make the choices difficult. If you have too many tiers, you can just sit on the fence a little bit. And I don't want to sit on the fence with this one. So For Your Eyes Only, it is a damn special record, man. That title track, that first gut punch, I'm blessed to have that on video so I can go back and see that first reactions from Rock Reacts, but also a second full album project reaction I can go back and watch as well. And this just showed an artist kind of at the peak of his powers, I think, in terms of the kind of conscious and emotional content that he wanted to make, and being able to, as a high level rapper, a big selling rapper, a big deal, coming off his best record, a brave choice, I think, to do something like this. So because of that, I'm gonna put it in amazing. But yeah, definitely at the lower end of amazing, just because, like I say, it is a tough listen. It's not something I'd necessarily choose to spin. We did the listening parties to a few of Cole's albums before the off-season dropped, And the energy for 2014 was amazing, and we had so much energy in the room, you know, hundreds of us, 500-600 in the room listening, that we went straight into doing this. And man, you know, it got emotional, but it wasn't, you know, it's not a listen, man, that album, but it is a special project. It really is. Okay, we're nearly there. We are nearly there. Up next then, KOD. What an unusual record this is, really, because at the time when it came out, it felt like a lot of it was kind of an answer, or retaliation is not the right word. I'll stick with answer to a lot of the things that were happening in music and hip hop at the time. This was the time where it was the Gucci Gang era.
Mom still live in the tent.
I guess you could call it. Lil Pump was big, a few of the other Lils, 6ix9ine, etc. And it felt like music was going in a certain direction that it's not necessarily quite gone, and it's taken a bit of a tangent to where we are right now with the Lil Babies, Lil Durks, Polo G's of the world, which aren't really following that kind of rainbow haired, totally perked out trend. I mean, there's elements of it, but the music right now is really somber, a lot of it. And this was a lot more silly, I think that you could say. So KOD is kind of like a retaliation or an answer to a musical trend which was very, very, very short-lived. And he actually obviously addresses that in the final track in 1985. Yeah, going back into KOD and kind of pulling out some of those slightly spacier, more leaned out, perked out tracks, you've got stuff like Window Pane and Brackets, which feel a bit more like classic Cole, you know, where he's talking around a subject from multiple points of view, seeing perhaps both sides or different sides of a story, then weaving in his own thoughts, his own politics, his own considerations. And I like the fact that just as we listen to Cole over the years, you know, you can hear his mind being changed on things, you can hear him learn and growing, you can hear him accepting, not necessarily understanding things. I think that's actually what makes him such a powerful voice, because like he's a very inspiring guy, he's obviously a very intelligent guy, but he's also committed to getting wiser as he gets older. And if you're of that mindset, you have to accept that mistakes are going to be made along the way. And I think you hear that a lot in this album. Yet some of the sort of standout tracks, like Kevin Hart, like ATM, they just don't really sound like a lot else. I felt like music was going to go in this direction after this, but it really didn't. So you just kind of have this unique project that didn't really create the kind of trends that I thought it would. But all of it musically sounds excellent. But, you know, there's not a lot that went on to inform what he produced since, whether it's the feature run or the off-season, which we'll talk about in a second. So where do I put this album? I don't think it quite gets into the amazing bracket. And like I say, if I'd copped out, if I'd fence sat, I could have put a tier in between amazing and solid. And maybe it would have gone there. But because this is a tier list and we've got to create a little bit of controversy, I'm going to drop it in solid. You might recommend it. Am I going to go and tell everybody who's got a passing interest in hip-hop that I've managed to turn on to a few artists, a few groups, about this one? Or am I going to pick a different J. Cole album? There's no two ways about it. I'm going to pick a different J. Cole album. So that's kind of where I'm at on KOD. I really like it. It's a special one for me because that was the first Cole album that dropped after I started reacting to music. So it had that deeper connection as well. But not one that I'd necessarily choose to throw on very often. So yeah, I'm actually comfortable with my choice there. And then we come to the most recent studio album. Just a few weeks old now. We've been living with it for a few weeks. Hopefully we've been enjoying it for a few weeks. I certainly have. The off-season, which I think demonstrates Cole at the absolute peak of his powers as a rapper, as an MC. It may not be as complete as Forest Hills Drive. It may not even be as complete and well thought. In fact, it's not. Rewind. It's definitely not as well thought out, considered, conceptual as For Your Eyes Only. But just in terms of listenability, in terms of putting it on and just getting hit in the face from the beginning by fucking bars, delivery, presence, all of the things that you really do look for when you're trying to find a new rapper, when you're trying to find somebody who stands out, not necessarily the energy you expect on a 6th studio album. Yet here we go with a guy once again prepared to put in the type of work that is rare for an artist sleeping in silk sheets, and that's the line that I use both in my review and reaction. You know, like the classic fighter, when you're sleeping in silk sheets, it's hard to get up and run those miles. It's hard to get up and get the 2-3 a day practices in the gym. You're sparring, you're rolling, you're strength and conditioning. Yet this is exactly what he's done to improve himself as a rapper. And we could feel that energy when he did the LA Leakers freestyle. That was a bit of a moment. I feel like we haven't had any moments like that in a while in hip hop, just because, I mean, probably a lot because of the pandemic and a lot of music not coming out, but just because, you know, that seems to be a lesser part of the culture. Somebody coming onto a radio station, a Sway, a Funk Flex, an LA Leakers, and dropping a freestyle as part of the promotional rollout. It seems to be something that was happening a lot more before, and I hope that doesn't go away because it's such a special thing. You know, 95 South comes in like a fucking assault. Amari, which I think might be one of the, like, probably top 20 melodic trap tracks of all time, certainly that I've heard. And you could make an argument for top 10, and you might say, John, you haven't heard this one yet, you haven't heard this one yet, and I say absolutely fine, I need to hear those as well. But point being, a special beat, and it's crazy how the story of that beat came about, a Timbaland beat that he didn't even save on a stream, and then Cole managed to get him to remake it. That's a great story, that's all over YouTube, I'm sure you can find it. My Life for 21 Savage delivering the like career high verse, Maury getting that shine, Pride is the Devil, Little Baby killing his verse, Let Go My Hand was a beautiful track. I just think it's a really fucking good album. And in terms of listenability, and what I mean by that, guys, is this technically a better album than For Your Eyes Only when you're talking about it from an artful point of view? No. What am I going to put on? I don't think there's any debate. What are you going to put on? There's no two ways about it. So listenability is something that I just hold at a high level when it comes to music. Sometimes you can appreciate something that you're not necessarily going to listen to a lot, and sometimes there's something that doesn't quite have the same amount of art, but you love to hear it, man. And I think there's enough art, there's certainly enough bars, there's certainly enough fucking moments on the off season that for me, I'm going to put it into the amazing. I gave it an 8 out of 10 on my review, so by that respect it has to go into the amazing category. So there we are, the tier list is complete. Obviously only 6 studio albums. You can get mad at me for not doing Friday Night Lights, which obviously I have done a reaction to on my channel, and the other mixtapes, but this is what I decided to do. It was about studio albums, guys, and that's the tier list done, guys. Tier lists gonna be more and more of a part of this channel. I like doing them. They're a good way to discuss things. They're a good way for me to remember some of the albums that I've heard, to spend more time with music that I've maybe done a reaction to and had to move off of and go and do some other stuff. So let me know tier list ideas, man. Obviously the discography thing is a staple, and we'll do loads of those for loads of artists, but we could even do something like the off-season tier list where we literally rank every song. Just for fun, man. Just for fun, because let me tell you, while reactions are going nowhere on this channel, big album reactions obviously still going to happen, it is very soul destroying to have every single one of your videos with a big red line through it. Chances are it might be blocked and you can't even get the video up. Super frustrating, man. And I definitely want to spend more time just chatting about stuff. So we don't even have to keep it to music, to be honest. Maybe we do a second channel where we're talking tier list of all sorts of things. Also, on top of that, I am interested in reacting to other types of content. We'll keep that around music for now, but let me know some ideas. If there's some really good videos out there that aren't necessarily a song, maybe, you know, someone else has done a top 10 list I can react to, etc, etc, etc. Finally, if you made it all the way here, let me know, by the way. I'm bracing for some grief in the comments, but that's the nature of doing stuff like this. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all very soon. Peace!